Hi, everybody. This is Steve Maggi from SMA Law Firm. Welcome to Building the Bridge. Our guest today is Josh Goldberg from Nath, Goldberg and Meyer, a patent firm and the IP firm in New York. Welcome, Josh. How are you?
I'm doing great today, Steve. How are you?
I'm great. We're tackling a lot of issues that are faced by foreign national entrepreneurs and companies, and there's no more important issue than intellectual property. Some of the challenges that are faced by foreign nationals is they may not understand what intellectual property is, or they may think that because they're protected in their home country, that protected globally. Can you talk about how the laws are different and how the protections are really dependent on the country?
Sure. So just about every country, if not every country in the world, has IP laws. But of course, they're all their own separate countries. So things are going to be different from place to place. Even if my law here in the US, I can patent something and I can patent any machine manufacturer, and the law in Japan says the same thing, that doesn't mean that the specifics of the law are the same. So for example, here in the US, it's very broad what you can patent. And the coverage you can get can be broad if you're entitled to it, if nobody else has done something. So, if I invented a new pen that lasted 20% longer, there are a lot of different ways that I could patent that and actually cover any pen that might be 20% longer lasting. In Japan, and I just use them as an example, they're going to be much more focused and much more specific, that you can only get a patent on those things which you show, which you exemplify. So it's not good enough to say any pen that lasts 20% longer, but here are the specific criteria that makes it last 20% longer. And you can get a patent for those specific criteria. I have a client, US Department of Agriculture. I do all of their non-US work for them. All their non-US patent work, I should say.
Interesting. I would never think that they would need help outside the US.
Apparently they do. I'm on my third contract with them right now. And in the early days with them, my first contract, these are 5-year contracts, they had one internal patent attorney who's not there anymore. But we had a case that we were working on together in Japan. And we got the examiner there, came up with what were very strong rejections. I cannot give you a patent on something that is covering all this property, right?
It was more akin to a US protection, which was broader, I guess.
Exactly. That's how the claims, the part that provides the protection, were written in the US style. So I went to my client, the attorney there, and I told her, look, this is what the examiner in Japan said. This is what we need to do. And if we do these 5 or so things, we'll get a patent. And she argued with me. She's like, no, that's not good enough. I need something bigger than that. Here's what I want you to do instead. I'm like, you're the client. I can do that, but the chances of success if we do this are pretty small because, for all these various reasons. She said, I don't care. I want you to go ahead and do what I told you to do. Okay. So I sent my instructions off to the Japanese attorney I was working with because I'm only licensed in the US. I can't practice in Japan myself.
Right.
I have a network of people in all these countries I work with. And I think it was 3 or so days later, I get a call early in my morning from my colleague in Japan. He's like, I got your instructions, but I'm really confused because, Japan has different laws than the US, right? I thought you understood better because these are people I know personally. So, it's okay. And this is why I work with people I know personally, that they feel comfortable raising things like that with me and picking up the phone and calling me. I explained the situation to him that, look, I already told the client to do exactly all the things you're telling me now you think we need to do. And the client said, no, I'm not interested in doing that. This is what I want to do. And I don't care how difficult it is. This is what you're going to do. And once I explained that to my colleague in Japan, they understood completely. They did what I instructed. And sure enough, we got another rejection from the examiner that said, basically, no, this is not the law in Japan. I already told you what you can get. Either give that to me or I'm going to keep rejecting it. To where eventually, after a few rounds of this, the attorney relented, did what needed to be done, and we got her patent in Japan.
There are so many take-home lessons. The first one I can think of is listen to your lawyer if they're specialized in something and don't try to do their job for them.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
but I think we've seen that in both our practices, especially when we're working with companies or entities that where the attorneys, they have their own in-house attorneys, but they think that the laws are the same everywhere. And that's obviously not true when you're talking about common law versus civil law, especially.
Oh, absolutely. And with what I do, I'm all on the patent procurement side. How do I get you your protection? If you're talking about litigation and how do you enforce these patents, it's a very, very different story. It's even more different than on the prosecution side. Steve, you and I were just talking a little bit about China, right? And how there's that common misconception that there's no such IP in China and there are no patent laws or anything like that. China actually has very strong patent laws, and I do a lot of work in China. They've been doing a lot over the past, say, 10, 12 years to make sure people realize, no, we are a good place to come invest in. You want to do business in China. We have all these people and we protect what's going on. It's really more of a cultural thing there. So, I have a client who manufactures in China. He spends half his time outside Shanghai and half his time in California. So he has operations in both places. And I was talking with him over Zoom back in January, and he was telling me that he had a big problem there, that he had his manufacturing plant and he had patents covering the product that was being manufactured. And he didn't realize it, but found out after some months that his plant foreman, who was running the plant for him all day, was actually at night also running machinery without telling my client, without letting anybody know, building the same product and selling it essentially as a gray market good, without the brand or whatever, but as
Wow.
the same thing. So thankfully, at least my client had patents where he could go to court and sue to get it stopped, have the foreman stopped. Of course, the foreman was fired, but make sure that nobody was left behind that was able to do those things, and was ultimately successful in that. But he then had to track this person down to see where else he was going, because now he had the knowledge of how to make it. And, there's nothing to stop people from, going to the next manufacturing facility down the street or 2 streets over and trying to do the same thing, right? It's like sometimes like playing a game of whack-a-mole over there.
Right.
That's seen culturally as permissive, even though the laws say it's not. Is it getting better? Absolutely, it's getting better. Is it the same as it is here in the US? Absolutely not.
Right. So it's really important for people to, I guess, remove those preconceptions they have, especially foreign companies and entrepreneurs thinking of launching in the US. Get out of your mind, I guess, whatever happens in your home country, and think about just from a US perspective. And that's what we are as US practitioners. That's what we're here for, right?
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
So if someone has questions, they're thinking about launching US operations, getting a trademark, a patent, or whatever is necessary, and they are willing to actually listen to your advice, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, Steve, as you can see to my right, I have my name, email address, and phone number. I'm on Zoom in meetings all the time. Honestly, the easiest, best way to get me and to know you'll get a response is to email. I respond to everybody's emails.
Wonderful. Thanks for your time and all your knowledge today, Josh. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Steve.